Shalom, people. This is Brother Lyles coming at you with another video. And as we look out across the political spectrum, we see so much chaos and confusion amongst our people. We see that they're feeling somewhat betrayed by the Democratic Party because of the different things that have happened under not just this administration, but many administrations since Black people pretty much wholesale signed their soul away to the Democratic Party back in the 1960s. And they look at our state today. This is not surprising what is happening to us. We see that throughout history. Our people always have to have someone lead us around. We always have to have someone to be a lightning rod, if you will, for our issues and our complaints. We have to have someone that we can, quote unquote, reach out and touch. And this has been to our detriment. Because as we're going to talk today, we're going to see that at one time, the Most High had given us the most perfect government there was since the Garden of Eden. You remember the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve were in the garden. All they had to do, and I want to say all, but all they had to do was, tend over the garden. They had to be fruitful and multiply, meaning, replenish the earth with humans. And every day when the most High came walking in the cool of the garden, talk with him face to face, no pretense, no priest, no sacrifice of a blood offering. They could commune with Yah. They knew his very thoughts because he told them, and they told him their very thoughts. But the devil was able to get in there and make them think that they was missing something, was able to make them think that the Most High was holding back on something from them, and he wasn't. And we know after we fell, after our forefathers fell, after our parents, Adam and Eve, fell, then all things shifted. And we know that after that, the Most High put watchers in the garden and on the earth to keep man out of the garden and also watch over him, as now Yah could not have fellowship with him like he used to because of sin. And that after that, now there will be an intermediary always between mankind and the Father. There will always have to be someone. They could not directly talk with the Father like that. And what a terrible day that was. But mankind did the best they could. And Yah, knowing all this was going to happen before creation, had already mapped out a plan what he was going to do before he even created man, because he knew he was going to fail. But yet it wasn't going to be easy for mankind. It was not going to be easy for the Godhead. It was not going to be easy for mankind to be brought back into fellowship with the Father. That the Father was going to have to bring man through many steps to get him to the point that he would be able to somewhat replicate that communion with him. But until that time, Yah wanted to implement where he would have a nation of people, of priests that he said could be intermediaries between him and all mankind. This was Israel's reason for being brought into existence, starting with Abraham when he came out of Ur of Chaldees, and then on to the birth of his son Isaac, and then the birth of Isaac's two sons, Esau and Jacob, who the birthright and the blessing fell on Jacob because of a series of different things that had happened. Some of them that was of trickery, yes, but was foreseen by the Most High that was going to happen the way it was going to come out because of the wickedness of Esau's heart, that out of the loins of Jacob will be born 12 tribes that will make up a nation that was supposed to be a nation of priests that would become intermediaries for the nations, and through whom the deliverer, final deliverer, Yeshua would come. But it was a hard road because these that had been selected did not want to be acting in the fashion that the priestly a person or nation was supposed to. We know that when the Most High brought our ancestors out of Egypt, when he brought those 12 tribes out, we know that they sinned in unbelief, and he had them wander through the desert for 40 years as punishment to weed out all those that did not want to be under the leadership of him through Moses, but wanted to constantly talk about going back to Egypt. But that when they finally got into the land, that the Most High had set up a way of leading our ancestors that was unlike any other nation, that had all these temples and all these groves and all these things, but none of their Elohims ever materialized, was ever able to operate on the level that the Most High operated for our ancestors, with miracles, with signs and wonders. But still, yet our people did not want that. He was trying to mold them into the priest that they needed to be, but they didn't even want to live a better life, a more righteous life than the nations that they had been called to be an example to. And in fact, they started looking at the other nations and how they were being governed over, not by their Elohim. They were being governed over by men, by kings, by prime ministers, and all these things. Our people had a Elohim that was governing over them, that hovered over the mercy seat and spoke direct instructions to the high priest or to the prophet, and by his words they would go out and give instruction to the people. They got tired of that and said, no, we want a king like everybody else. And that's what we will talk about today. But we will have a king. We will have a king, and that is our people. Our people have to have somebody to always be over them, to try to get them pointed in the right direction. And this has been to our detriment because the Most High didn't want it that way. He wanted to keep it the way it was. But the problem was the people never wanted the Most High to directly speak to them clearly because they wanted to have some confusion or ambiguity where they could say, I really didn't quite understand what he was saying, because they wanted to sin just like all the other nations around them. And so the way they would get out of it is they said, give us a man, give us a fallible man that can lead us. Therefore, if he's fallible, then we can have an excuse to be fallible. But the Most High did not let them go easy. He told them what was going to happen to them. And we're going to talk about that today, because as we look out upon this political situation that we have going on with the Democrats and the Republicans, and a lot of our people are scratching their heads saying, who am I going to vote for? Am I going to vote for Donald Trump? Am I going to vote for Joe Biden? Am I going to vote for Kennedy? Am I going to vote for this one or that one? And we don't see the warning that the Most High had given us about always wanting to have a king over us. Again, is coming to bite us, in the proverbial backside. But let's go first to the book of 1 Samuel in the 8th chapter. And we're going to get into our lesson. 1 Samuel, 8th chapter. And we're going to start at verse 1. 1 Samuel 8:1. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. Now listen to what Samuel's getting ready to tell them. But verse 6, but the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the master. And the master said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people and all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. Remember what I said? The Most High was reigning over him. He was their king. But they didn't want him. Continue reading. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me, and served other Elohims, so do they also unto me. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. And when we get through reading all what the kings that was going to rule over them was going to do, we can see when our people gave up the greater for the lesser. We have been under these types of leadership for the most part the whole time that we have had earthly kings ruling over us. Verse 10. And Samuel told all the words of the master unto the people that asked him that ask of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, meaning he would put them in his military, for his chariots and to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariot. He will appoint unto him captains over thousands and captains over 50, and he will set them to ear his corn, meaning they was gonna be the ones that produced the economic wealth of the king, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots, meaning the economy or the wealth of that king was going to be built on their backs. They was not going to be beneficiaries of it. They were going to be in the system, but the system is primarily going to benefit that earthly king. And he will take your daughters to be confessionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers. Think about most of these big mega churches out here where you got these pastors that might well say they're kings. They have people out here doing bake sales and fish fries and all these other kind of things to keep the church doors open and to pay his salary so that his kids can go to college and yours can just maybe go to community college and become a phlebotomist. Let's keep reading. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and get them unto his servants. Creflo Dollar having a jet and saying, hey, I need a newer jet. I need y'all to do something about it. Let's keep reading. And he will take the 10th of your seed and of your vineyards and give it to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your manservants and your maidservants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work. See what I'm saying? He will take the 10th of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which you shall have chosen you. And the master will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people what? Refuse to obey the voice of Samuel and said, nay, but we will have a king over us. They said, no, we don't care if he manipulates us. Just because of the optics of him going out before us, that is worth him treading on our backs. It's worth him fleecing us. It's worth it. That's why sometimes, and let me keep reading. I'll get to that, but let's keep reading. That verse 20. That we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us. Even though he might be doing wicked judgment, he's still going to be judging us and go out before us and fight our battles. So here we go again. And Samuel said all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the master. And the master said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go ye every man into his city. But we will have a king, Samuel. We know Yah is speaking to us clear instructions. We know it's him that's bringing the rain. We know it's him that's protecting us from all these other nations because we're so small amongst the nations and we're not really skilled warriors. And we know that we did not bring ourselves out of Egypt by our military prowess, but that very one that led us by a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. We don't want him ruling over us. The same thing that happened in the garden with Adam and Eve when Satan said to Eve, but Yah is holding back knowledge that only he has, because he knows once you get that knowledge, you're going to be just like him. And again, our people fell for it. Our people looked at and said, you know what? All these other nations, their king looks so, our Elohim, we can't see him. We don't have no idol that we can go up and bow to and grab hold to and leave food at the foot of the foot of the tiki idol or whatever. We don't have none of that. The least we can have is a king that we can see. We need this. We need to look good at this thing. And we ain't looking in our eyes too good as compared to the other nations. They got their king leading them in battle. Even though even though the Most High was taking them out to the battlefield and beating armies that were more well equipped and more military prowess. Do you remember Gideon with the candles and with the horns and with the 300 men that defeated the Midianites, that large army? You understand? They didn't want that anymore. They wanted to do it the hard way. We want a fallible king. We know when he judges us, he might have bad judgment, but at least we can see him. We can see him in his nice robes and on his chariot. And Samuel said, but you understand what you're getting yourself into. The Father, he is your king. And our people said, we don't care. And that's because they wanted to be able to sin just like the other nations. Yah had said, I sent you into Canaan to drive out those people because of the type of lifestyle that they were living. And our people kept falling into the same lifestyle that the Canaanites were falling into the same worship, just like we did in our lesson about the Balaam cult. Our people had got into the same sexual perversions that the Canaanites were getting into. They was falling headlong into it, and now they wanted to do the final chopping block, which is to take Most High off his throne and enthrone a man, because they said we wanted to be like all the other nations. In the very manner of what the king, Samuel said the king was. Whenever you look at the history of our people and all the places that he scattered and dispersed us to, you see when our people was taken into Babylon, what happened to them, how they took all the choices of the captives that came out of Israel, that came into Nebuchadnezzar's court. He made them eunuchs and put them in his government to work in his government. And that all the nations that have ever ruled over us, because we said that to the Most High that we didn't want him to be our king, after the Most High destroyed our nation, because none of the monarchs, even David, caused some issues later on in his kingdom because of the type of rule that he had. Even though he was a man that was after Yah's own heart, there were gaps and stuff in the things that he was doing also, because Yah never wanted that to happen. But the people said they was willing to roll the dice and believe that the king that they was going to get was going to be a godly king, and they was going to be able to do the same thing that the Most High was able to do, except they would also be able to reach out and touch him. And how wrong they were, that the very words that Samuel had told them would be the king has been our issue. And in the other nations that we went into in captivity, or when the other nations came and occupied the land, our people always have suffered under the leadership. After the Most High had done away with the northern kingdom because they're wicked kings, and they had done away with the southern kingdom. Why? Because of their wicked kings. All the places where we think about when our people have been scattered into different places where they had to submit themselves to these other nations' religions. They had to submit themselves to these other nation gods. They submitted themselves to these other nations' political systems, right? Where even when Yeshua came along, you seen some of our people whose names had these Greek and Roman names, right? Change their names, change the way of their worship, change the priesthood at the time that Yeshua came, where they implemented, where the Idumeans, who were descendants of Esau, were thrust into the Hebrews' priesthood, when the very thing that caused the reforms of Ezra and Nehemiah was that the priesthood was polluted. That when the Greeks came in and the Romans came in and thrust the Idumeans into that priesthood, they polluted. Why? Because of the wicked leaders now that our people had ruling over them, because when they had Yah at the very beginning, they didn't want him to be king. And so here we go into the captivity. We go into the captivity and all these different lands that we have, and these taskmasters. Starting with those that led our ancestors to those ports, and when those that were going on the trails that were leading these massive amounts of slaves, of people that they had captive, that people that would be weak on the way, they would either kill them or leave them there on the side of the trails. They was going to go to the slave castles to be eaten by animals, or just to die of hunger or thirst. Or when they got to the slave castles waiting for the ship, they would die in the holding cells. Their evil taskmasters ruled over them, because they would not have the Most High ruling over them. Yah said, I'll let evil taskmasters now rule over you. And then when our people got to those that made it to the ships, was ruled over by the evil ship captains that was throwing some of them overboard when they was sick, or doing all kinds of sexual things to them, or starving them, or beating them, or whatever it was that they was doing. And if they made it through that, they got to the Middle Passage, and the Roman Catholic priest would come out there, or the Protestant priest would come out there and in the Middle Passage and baptize him as a Christian and give him another name and all these things. He said, you want to have a king over you, because you did this, you will be in this state, especially after Yeshua had came. And our people had a chance to appoint him as their king. And even in that, they rejected him. You don't believe me? Let's go here to Matthew. He let them know that he was their king, but they didn't want to have him as their king. Matthew 2:2 says this, and this is the wise men. He said, saying, where is he that is born king of the Yahudim? For we have seen his star in the east, and have come to worship him. And when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Understand this. He said, not just Herod, but all Jerusalem knew that the star appointing their king was in. But how many people was even interested in going to Bethlehem to see the king? The king that had been prophesied by the Father. How many people was interested in going? Only the wise men. In fact, if you keep reading, Herod said, go seek the child, and then when you do, come back and talk to me and tell me where I can go to see him so I can worship him, even though we know Herod was an idle man, so he wasn't really thinking like that. He was just trying to find out where he was going to be at so he could go kill him. But what's amazing is that, like I said, our people, who at that time was under the rulership of the wicked Roman Empire, when the prophecy of their king was brought forth to them by people from the outside, that they couldn't even look up in the sky themselves and understand what was going to happen, that their king was there, they still didn't want to go out there and rush and see it. And I submit unto you that these are the reasons that we have some of the things that we have in our community of such wickedness, is that we are people of outward appearance. We have an outward appearance of righteousness. When he said they have a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. That's us. The Most High was our power. His Son was our power. And when we had a chance, when the Father was leading us, we rejected it. And then when Yeshua came along and said, I am your king, or these other nations that recognized that our king was here, our people was not interested in that. They was not interested in that. Look at this. Look at this. Matthew 5:35. Look at this. It says this. Actually, this is Yeshua speaking. Let's go up to verse 33 of Matthew 5. He said, again, ye have heard that is, and this is Yeshua speaking, ye have heard that it has been said by them of old, that thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the master thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is Yah's throne, nor by earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Now, he was not talking about Herod. He was trying to let the people know that despite all the stuff that they were doing, Yah was still their great king in the city of Jerusalem. And he was their great king in their midst right then in front of them through the person of Yeshua. The great king that they had been waiting for was there in Jerusalem with them. But what they was more concerned with was the optics of making the oaths and all these different things. He said, you don't you perceive that your king, your Elohim, your God in heaven, you can't swear by his heaven because that's his throne, and you can't swear by his footstool, which is Jerusalem, because this is his city, and I am that king, and you are desecrating when you use these things, when you use these religious oaths and all these different things that you do. And what is our people concerned about when they trying to make people think that they serious? I swear on my mama grave, I swear on God, I swear on this, and I swear on that. And he said, you not perceiving that anything when you doing that comes up of evil because you don't perceive what you talking about? Do you not understand what you talking about? You are blaspheming and being disrespectful to the throne of Yah and to his great city, Jerusalem, or the people. Don't you understand what you're doing? This is our people problem. We want the optics. But when Yeshua came, there's like he's not flashy enough for us. He doesn't have a big chariot. He doesn't have an army behind him. But what did Yeshua tell Peter when he cut off the ears of the high priest servant? And he put it back on. He said, Peter, put up your sword. Don't you know I got 12 legions of angels that I could call to take care of all this? Which we know one angel in the Old Testament killed over 100,000 men, one angel. He said, I can bring a legion, which is 12,000 of those. Probably even more powerful angels than that. So, no. But my kingdom right now is not of this world. Because if it was, then my followers wouldn't have never let me. And Yeshua even said, the kingdom of Yah at this time is not coming with observation. But our people are always, and that's one of the things is said about us is that we're very stylish and fashion conscious and all these different things. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing if you want to wear quality or whatever. But our people are ostentatious. They like to live vicariously through people. And that's why, like I said, in the South, particularly, I can say this as from raised in the South. If you wanted to be a good black preacher here in the South, you got to be able to marry people. You got to be able to baptize people. You got to be able to bury people, and you got to have a woman on the side of your wife, not your wife. You got to have one on the side because the people don't care. You got to look. You got to dress look nice, and your wife got to look nice. You got to have a nice looking wife, right? All of you got to be picture perfect. And if you do that, you can just be the most corruptest of whatever. That's all our people care about. And this is directly because of what started back in 1 Samuel. He said, this is the manner of the king. He's going to be able to persuade you to do all kinds of things. He's going to be able to persuade you to give up to your children. How many testimonies have people had of children going to some of these churches and being molested and everything, and the church leadership will come tell, don't tell the police or whatever. Young boys, young girls getting molested, and this is why you see some of this crazy stuff out here, and why there's so much backlash and hatred, because some of these people with these wicked leaders, how many political leaders amongst us have done all kinds of wicked things? But they look nice, they dress nice, they talk nice, they got all the whatever. And Most High said, they ain't no good for you. Don't put your hope in those things. Don't put your hope in those things. But people said they got us ahead to where we needed to be. But then what would happen when those ones would be taken out? What would happen? Our people will fall apart. And Yah said, I need to be your king again. And that's why when you're born again, Yeshua becomes your king. He is supposed to be your king. But even primarily for us as Hebrews who are born again, that we have the thing of, yes, Yeshua, he's been my king before I knew who I was as being a Hebrew, because he has to be my king. If I'm going to be born again, I gotta let him lead and guide me through his spirit. But now that I know that I am a Hebrew, and that when he comes back to set up his kingdom, that he's going to reestablish the nation of Israel, and he's going to bring in those of the 12 tribes, those that are alive, that's on the earth. He's going to bring them in to repopulate and set up the nation of Israel as a nation again, that he said, before I come back, that those of my people who are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he said, you will not see me again until ye say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahuwah. Meaning, before I come back, you as a people, as a nation, as individuals, not as just being believers. Yeah, I believe it. I'm saying he's my king, but as a Hebrew, I'm saying, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahuwah, and asking forgiveness for my forefathers rejecting him as their king and taking these earthly kings. Because what did our people say when they rejected him? They said, we have no king but Caesar. And our people have been oppressed and under the thumb of Rome ever since, because we pronounced that curse on ourselves, not just with the crucifixion of Yeshua, but by proclaiming that Caesar would be. And who does our ancestors and some of us, before we came out of this Eurocentric Christianity, had on the walls of our homes? This white Jesus, this painting of Caesar Borgia, because you would have a king over you, and you had a king over you that oppressed you, that they said in some of the places in Angola and some of the other Portuguese places where the Catholic Church was at, they would set the people in front of the painting of Caesar Borgia and whip them with a whip and said, this is your God, this is your king now. This Caesar Borgia, this child, this pedophile, whatever he was, beast of a man. And so much so that even in Africa, they said that you will find a multiplicity of these paintings of Caesar Borgia over the people, because they said we will have a king. over us. And they rejected the Messiah when he came. He is our king as believers. But I'm talking to you out here that are listening to my voice, that are believers, and you know that you are also a descendant of the 12 tribes. We now must proclaim not just as in our salvation, but also as the descendants of those that rejected him. Because remember what Paul said? He said he sent us into all these different calamities and captivities and stuff, and took away all the riches and stuff that we had in order to make us what? Jealous. Jealous of who? Jealous of those that he had temporarily exalted amongst us, to make us draw closer to him and say, not only is Yeshua our Savior, not only is he King of us as pertaining to being in heaven, but that also we want him to come back bodily to be our King here on earth, and thereby set back Yah's son back in the rightful place that he had before we asked for a king in 1 Samuel, the 8th chapter. I can remember reading again in 1 Samuel in the 12th chapter, where when Samuel was getting ready to go off the scene, and he told the people, started in verse 1, he said, look, I'm old. My sons are here before you. And he said, I walked before you as a child. And he said, none of you can say that I've taken anything from you. None of you can say that I took bribes. None of you can say I defrauded you. None of you can say anything about the work that I have done. I've done everything that the Most High has asked me to do. And I even presented before you a king like you asked me to. He said, but now I getting ready to go off the scene. And I'm getting ready to, I'm just going to be frank with you. I'm going to be honest with you. He went over how they started out in Egypt and how they started with Moses. He went out and talked to them, in this 12th chapter, 1 Samuel, talked about, after they got brought in the land, how Yah had appointed captains over them. They helped them fight against the Philistines and helped them fight against Moab, and how, he brought up Zerubbabel, and how they was able to defeat the Ammonites and all those things. He said, but when you seen Nahash, the king of the Ammonites, even though he was your mortal enemy, you seen his rulership, and you had the nerve to come to me and tell me that you wanted me to appoint you a king like every other nation. He said, you don't know what you have done. You have rejected the Most High. Because you don't want to obey his voice, and you want to rebel against his commandments. He said, you do not want to obey his voice. That's why you would rather have the voice of a human man, because it is fallible and you can call foul on him. He said, but you can't call foul on the Most High. He was giving you clear instructions, and that was too much for you because you wanted to live the way you wanted. And the Bible said to show you, Samuel said, to show you how much this displeased the Most High. Most High that day when Samuel talked in the 12th chapter, the Most High was also talking in a severe thunderstorm with rain. And it was so bad, the people said, please, Samuel, we don't want the master to kill us. Please tell him not to kill. He said, he ain't going to kill you. And you don't fear him. Stop playing. You don't fear him, because if you feared him, you never would have said you didn't want to have a king. So now we got all this fear mongering amongst our people. So, oh, if Donald Trump get back in the office, oh, we're gonna go back into slavery. But then you got the Republicans saying, oh, if Joe Biden get in, he's gonna run the economy in the ground and all these other things. All this stuff. It's just child's play. The Most High say you don't have to deal with none of this. Now, like I stated in one of my videos, vote if you want to. Get out there and campaign, do your best, whatever. But the word has already told us what the end of all this stuff is going to be with this political things. What it's going to be for us as a people. In the end, it's going to turn against us. And we already seeing we're in a rock and a hard place. Whatever candidate you choose, you're going to be in the same predicament, even if you don't vote, whatever you do, because it never was going to be that the Most High was going to let you do better off without him with some of these others, especially after you rejected his son as being king over you. What kind of sense would that make to let you go off into this and you say, you know what, Most High kicking us out of the land and not being our king was pretty good decision. He letting you know with all the stuff that's going on, it never was a good decision that you did. It never was a good decision when you rejected his son. When he came and told you, how many times he told you he was the king, and our people still yet rejected him. The same as they did back in 1 Samuel. And with all that, though, look what the Most High said in that 12th chapter of 1 Samuel. This is some hope for our people. This is verse 20. Everything else I kind of paraphrase for you, but I want to read this part. And this is Samuel. This is 1 Samuel 12 and 20. And Samuel said unto the people, fear not, ye have done all this. Well, let me go to verse 19. He said, all the people said unto Samuel, pray for thy servants unto the master thy Elohim, that we die not. For we are added unto all our sins this evil, to ask us a king. So they said, we realize we made a mistake in asking for a king. But look what Samuel said in verse 20. And Samuel said unto the people, fear not, ye have done all this wickedness, yet turn not aside from following the master, but serve the master with all thy heart. And turn ye not aside, for then should ye go after vain things, which cannot profit nor deliver thee, for they are vain. For the master will not forsake his people for his great name's sake, because it has pleased the master to make you his people. Moreover, as for me, Yah forbid that I should sin against the master in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and right way. Only fear the master and serve him in truth with all their heart. For consider how great things he has done for you. But if ye shall still do wickedly, ye shall be consumed, both ye and your king. And unfortunately for our people, we continue to do wickedly, and our king. And in one scripture with Isaiah, I don't know, might have been Isaiah or Jeremiah, I don't know which one. He said, it might be Malachi. He said, as priests, as people, the wickedness of the priest is the same wickedness of the people. Unfortunately for our people, not as individuals, but as a whole, that we have continued to follow the pernicious ways of our leaders over us, and vice versa. That you might get a leader in there that want to do right, but the peoples don't want to do right. Or vice versa, you got people that might want to do right and they get a leader in there, and one or the other is going to persuade the other to do wickedly because they're both fallible. And the Most High said, just because you got this king, you can still prosper if you do right. If you do right as an individual. That's why through all of these different administrations of presidents that I have been under since the Most High brought me into this earth back in 1965. I'm still here. I made it through as a youngster through the Vietnam era. I made it through the post-war era in America with free love, hippie. Then the heroin epidemic in the 70s with the drug use. Made it through that. Made it through the beginning of the cocaine and then into the crack. Made it through the prison, the industrial complex that they implemented against young black men. The dismantling of any structure of any leader in America that wanted to rise up and do good toward black people. That I made it through that dismantling. I made it through being in the U.S. military. Made it through the evangelical black church movement in the 80s and 90s, dissolving into this mishmash stuff that we got. Most High has preserved me through all of that, with all these wicked leaders that were over me in the military, in these churches. He's preserved me because my heart. I didn't say that I always did everything that I was supposed to. Not saying that I didn't fall and had to get up. There's times that I failed, but my heart was I want to do right. And when I see these leaders, these people that's quote unquote pointed over me, that's doing wickedly, I want to get as far away from that once I become aware of it as I can. I was not understanding that as a young believer when I had some of these people, these religious and others that was over me that I was leading, right? But once I became aware, and then I really the Most High started really helping me understand that Yeshua said, I'm your king, right? But I'm going away, but I'm sending the Holy Spirit, and he's going to be in place of me. So when I start understanding that, I said, Holy Spirit, you speak in the stead of Yeshua, who is my king in heaven. Please lead and guide me through my king in heaven, who is also my intercessor to the Father when I sin, and, intercedes for me so that I won't get gobbled up, to give me an opportunity to get my life on track. This is the kind of king that we have in heaven right now. Think about what it's going to be like when he comes here on earth. If I'm alive when he comes back or not, I'll be coming back with him. Whichever way, what a great king we have. What did Yeshua say? He said, don't swear by Jerusalem, because that's the city of the great king, who is me. Because when he rode into Jerusalem, what did they say? Hosanna, blessed is our king that cometh in the name of Yahuwah. He said, you will not see me in that capacity as Hebrew people until you worldwide say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahuwah. That's why we got to pray for the salvation of our people, because Yah has a set number. I don't know what that number of us that's got to get right and say it. I'm not saying, I'm talking about those of us that are believers, that are saved, that know that we are the people. Right now, you got to say, Yeshua, you are my king of my salvation. But as a Hebrew, I not only want you to be that king for me, but I want you to be my king here on earth, back in the nation of Israel, leading and guiding the 12 kings, 12 on the 12 on those 12 thrones, of which James and John asked, could they sit on his right hand and the left? He said, this is what I desire for. That's what my desire is to see. Because in all these places where any of our people, quote unquote, got political power, they really don't have no political power. They don't. We just figured, they ain't say that we not doing different things, but you can see these black mayors and stuff that we got out here. Do you see any of them getting put up to be a candidate for president? You see any of them being put up for any of that? No, you don't. I'm going to tell you what's getting ready to happen, or what I believe is going to happen, because so many black people have stated either they're not going to vote for the Democratic Party, because blacks back in the 60s had a wholesale change where they changed dance partners from the Republicans to the Democrats. The Democrats are thinking that they could see a wholesale, maybe not a wholesale, but enough of black people that to spite the Democrats would go over to Republicans, so or not vote. So they're going to do this. Joe Biden, this is what I believe he's going to do. He's going to probably, get out there, and he might do 1 or 2 debates. And if he don't see that it's going to work out, then the Democratic Party is going to pull him to the side and say, look, we already had Gavin Newsom do a dry run with this made up debate with Ron DeSantis, and we're going to put him up because, he's coming from a Democratic state, and he put forth that phony reparations committee that when they came out and said this is what black people need to get, and he decided, well, I ain't gonna put it before the California legislature because they're not gonna do anything with it. We might have something to wet the whistle of these black people, and then and they're gonna put him out there and see if black people are gonna bite. If they're gonna say, well, he now can be our new king, or some black people still believing that Donald Trump is gonna ride in on his white right racist horse and scoop them up and put them on the back of the white horse with him, and you understand. I think this is a doing of the Most High, that he's letting us see, I'm the only king that you need. And I know people say, well, I'm here on earth, I got taxes to pay, I got this to think about, and I got it. What did he say? He said he put all this stuff in your way in order for you to say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahuwah, please come back, for us to desire for him to come back. But he said, don't let yourself get caught up in the cares of this life too much. And that's what has happened. But I do believe the time is going to come where he said those that are going to get caught up in it, let them remain in it, because when it goes down, he said Babylon is going to be destroyed in 1 hour. He said the smoke of her torment is going to go up in 1 hour. I mean, whatever's going to happen, all those that are part of this thing, when it's time for the ship to go down, if you the captain, you got to go down. So the more of our black people that's part of this political system, when whatever happened to this country, they're going to be expecting you to go down with the ship. They're going to expect you. Why do you think that they got so many black people over these major metropolitan areas, and they flooding it out with immigrants from all around the world? They putting it in their lap, and what are these black mayors crying? Oh, we need money, we need it. See to your own house. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Cut the budget. Make the people mad. Cut the police force. Let the crime go up. You deal with it. We ain't dealing with it. Unless in this one of the cities that we want. The Most High is basically is Pharaoh making us make bricks without straws. Because don't you not think that some of those taskmasters in Egypt time was not some of our people? Some of them taskmasters that was over them people was not Egyptians. Some of them was our people. Yeah. Some of them people was our people. And as it was, and there's nothing new under the sun, it's going to be the same way. He should come back, or in the preceding his coming back. That even like with Daniel, when the Persian Empire was about to destroy Babylon, what did Belshazzar say? He said, I'm going to make you third in command. He said, I don't want to be in command. I'm just letting you know the handwriting is on the wall. Why would I want to be third in command when I know this thing is getting ready to fall? And what it said that very night, the Persians snuck in the city and destroyed Babylon. But we will have a king. We will have a king. And Yeshua cracks the sky. I can't wait for that day. What about you? But you got to have him king over your life first and foremost. If you are a believer out there and you're a Hebrew, we must repent, ask forgiveness of the sins of our forefathers as a nation, saying that we will not have no king but Caesar. We must ask forgiveness and ask him to forgive us and become our king and come back. But if you are a Hebrew, but you're not born again, you got to first make him king of your heart. You got to be saved. You got to be a believer. You cannot make it into the kingdom except you come through Yeshua. You cannot make it in there. You got to bow knee to him. You got to bow your knee and say, Yeshua, save me. Please forgive me of my sin. I know I'm a sinner. I know that I'm not covered in your blood. I know that I have not. I know that I love sin. I know that sinning is as natural to me as breathing. But I don't want to be a sinner anymore. I want to be a new creature in Yeshua HaMashiach. And I know that I cannot do that unless you save me. I know that I cannot have fellowship with the Father except I come first through the Son. And that I cannot have Yah's Spirit enter into me again. Enter into me except I am born again, and I want to be born again. Please forgive me of my sins. Wash me. Make me a new creature. And then, for you Gentiles out there, the Bible said, boast not yourself against the natural branches. You that are believers out there, boast not yourself against the natural branches. Don't coming up to us talking about we got to fall out to your Republican Party and all these different things, saying that you're the moral majority and all the stuff that happened. You don't need us. No, you can't talk that way to us because you have not done right. You have not done right to us who are the descendant of those that your ancestors enslaved. And if we have paid the price for what our ancestors did to Yeshua over 2,000 years ago, what say you of you being less than 200 to 300 years ago that some of my ancestors were enslaving you and you're yet benefiting from it, and you think telling us to be quiet? You better pray to the Most High that he's gracious unto you to let you escape the damnation that's coming to this place, because damnation is coming to this place. But what your people are trying to do is set our people up to be in charge by getting our people to follow after their kings again. In book of First Samuel telling us that never was what we supposed to have been doing. But because our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because they have rejected knowledge, this is what we find ourselves in. But some of our people are waking up. And I'm telling you, don't let them come out to you and say, this is the most important election ever in your lifetime. How many times have we heard that? Give your heart to Yeshua. Become born again. And if you're a Hebrew, a descendant of 12 tribes, proclaim him as your king and tell him to come back to be our king here on earth and set up his kingdom where we'll reign and rule with him. And with that, I'm going to ask you to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. I'm going to ask you to share. And I'm going to ask you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to watch my other videos. I have over 300 some videos. And I'm sure within that is something that could be a blessing to you. So please do that. And for all those that still follow me, still out there, I thank you for taking out the time to watch any of my videos, however long. or how many ever that you watch, I thank the Most High for you. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.